All right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today. We're really excited that you signed up for this webinar. For those of you who are coming to the second webinar of the series, welcome back. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. My name is Tweevy, and I am head of marketing at Guidebook. Joining me today to speak are my colleagues Jack, Guidebook's Manager of Client Success and Growth, Stuart, our Director of Global Revenue, and Mackenzie, our Senior Account Manager. After my presentation today, Jack will be doing a demo, and then we'll close the session with Q&A from Jack, Stuart, and Mackenzie. So I'll just quickly turn this over to them for them to introduce themselves.
Hey guys, this is Jack. I'm looking forward to taking you through the demo today and then going through your questions.
Hi everyone, this is Stuart. As Tweevy said, I'm Guidebook's Director of Global Revenue. I've been at Guidebook for 5 years now and based in our London office, obviously working from home currently. And I manage our sales teams across our 4 different offices in San Francisco, North Carolina, London, and Seoul. I also manage the accounts of some of our largest clients, such as Johnson & Johnson, BAE, and Novartis. Some of those who use Guidebook specifically for employee engagement and remote work. So looking forward to contribute later on in the Q&A section.
Hey everyone, my name is Mackenzie, as Tweevy mentioned. I'm a Senior Account Manager here at Guidebook. I work out of our Raleigh, North Carolina office. I manage a majority of our enterprise accounts in the US. I help a lot of clients build, deploy, and measure their mobile strategies. I unfortunately don't have a British accent, but I'm looking forward to assisting in the live Q&A today.
Thanks, guys. All right, so today's Guide Talk is going to be split into 2 sections. We'll first be discussing the rising popularity of remote work, and then we'll go into some screenshots and explanations on how Guidebook supports remote work internally, plus some of our tips and tricks. And then Jack will lead the demo, and then we'll close again with an open Q&A and discussion. If you have any questions throughout any point during this webinar, or if you're facing any issues, I see some people are having some issues with sound, please use the chat feature located at the bottom of the screen to send them in. We'll compile a list and get to them after the presentation and demo. And then I just wanna quickly note this just in case someone's not looking at the group chat, but if for some reason you've lost sound, try disconnecting your audio and then rejoining, and that might fix it for you. Okay. So before we go into how Guidebook uses its own platform to support remote work, let's first discuss some of the trends that we are seeing for remote work. In the wake of coronavirus, many companies around the globe have shifted to remote work. Large companies such as Google, Facebook, and Twitter were some of the first to make the switch, with many companies following suit after the CDC published a recommendation that businesses should allow their employees to work remotely as much as possible. Here in California, we're on our 4th week of shelter in place. But even before the COVID-19 pandemic, Forbes actually reported that remote work was the standard operating mode for at least 50% of the US population, which is a really high number. In the last year, remote work quickly became one of the most desirable benefits an employer could offer. Why? Because the freedom for employees to work in a non-traditional work setting with more flexible hours gave increased motivation for people to seek remote roles, especially employees just joining the workforce. And since 2005, the number of people who work from home has increased by 140% due to advances in technology. So with the rising popularity of remote work culture, an increasing amount of employers are now establishing remote work policies. It's probably too soon to tell how long this outbreak will continue to impact day-to-day operations, but the reality is that remote work is here to stay, which is why it's critical for businesses to embrace it and create the best and most productive work environment possible. So let's jump into how Guidebook uses its own platform to support remote work. Guidebook has employees located around the globe in North America, South America, Europe, and Asia, basically just not Antarctica. So communication and access to company information is a vital part of continuity for our business. We use our own platform to engage with employees, communicate changes, sorry, can you hear me? I think I just lost sound. communicate changes in a timely manner and provide relevant information. A mobile app helps us connect with employees regardless of whether or not they are working remotely, and provides us with the opportunity to reach employees where they already are, which is on their phones. So how do we do this? This list is a general list for how we make it work for our employees, which we'll go into more detail in the next few slides. First, we communicate instant news through push notifications and keep employees in the loop with general updates. As you can see from the screenshot, prior to California's shelter-in-place mandate, Guidebook CEO Jeff Lewis sent a push notification to the whole company and announced a mandatory work-from-home period for employees. And then as more information came in from the county or from the state, employees continued to receive notifications regarding important news. Push notifications for Guidebook's remote work app are enabled for every employee, so this message was received by everyone in the company in real time. The combination of push notifications and email and chat communications increases the likelihood that an employee will receive the information faster. And this is the power of mobile, the ability to reach a widespread audience at any time, anywhere. Decreased amount of face time in the office means that employees may feel cut off from their peers or information they need in order to do their jobs well. So Guidebook not only messages employees about important information, such as the push notification about the work from home mandate, but also by sending messages about general information to employees via the messages feature in the app. This just ensures that all information that employees need to know about working remotely is found in the app designed for remote work, and there's no need to search through countless emails. A really good example of how this has become really important for us is that this has become the standard app for Guidebook to use for employees when we need more information about just general remote work. As we have started working from home more, there's just been an influx of emails. So having a mobile app like this is super helpful because you don't have to go through a bunch of emails in your inbox. So in the screenshots, you'll see different variations of how people can view the messages. So in the first one, you can see that there's all of the messages, and then you can see, if you can sort by all or unread. The second one has a general interact feature with just some general updates here. And then when you click into it, you can see more information. The second thing is we set proper expectations and guidelines for working remotely. So Guidebook's remote app covers a broad range of topics regarding working from home best practices, including tips on how to stick to a schedule, over communicating, being responsive, how to deal with IT questions, you name it. In the image on the screen, these are just some of the examples that we've put in our app, including what it looks like when you actually click into one of the custom list items, but you can add as many things as you'd like to this list. In fact, there's no actual set limit, so you can add as many as you want. And lastly, we encourage engagement and create an environment in which people will not feel isolated. So similar to social media platforms, Guidebook uses its in-house interact feature to make sure employees feel connected with each other. So from silly stories to recommendation requests to personal photos of desk setups or pets, Guidebook employees treat this interactive social feed as a place for employees to engage with others. And I'm actually going to switch over to Jack now for him to show you a demo of the actual app that is on the screen.
Hey guys, this is Jack here again. I hope you can all hear me. As mentioned earlier, I'm the manager of client success and growth here at Guidebook. I've worked here for nearly 3 years, and during that time worked with many different clients on many different types of deployment. So I can give you some insight into how our platform can be leveraged to engage and communicate with remote employees in the current situation we find ourselves in, and also, hopefully beyond that. It's great to meet you all, albeit virtually, and I hope you find the demo intuitive and informative. During the demo that I'm about to start, I'm going to use Guidebook's resource for working remotely that you just saw in some of the screenshots. I'm going to do my best to cover the main features that we believe will help organizations share information and create a community for their users. The content and features are aimed towards our chosen use case, and of course, you can use those for different things, for different use cases. So if you feel like I don't cover something you were hoping to see, please do let us know, and we can set up a more personalized demo when suits you. A lot of the content and features you see here has been used by clients using Guidebook to, for example, onboard remote employees or engage with staff before they start their first day during more normal times when we're allowed to go to the office. So we've based this guide and also use this guide for real things that happen all the time. Please also, as a reminder, just send your questions into the chat for the Q&A afterwards. Cool, so to begin with, I've just flipped my screen to a simulator on the left-hand side. So this simulates an Apple iPhone. And this on the right-hand side is my browser open with our back-end platform, which we call Builder. I'm gonna mirror basically what I'm showing you in the front end with how it looks in the back end. Most of the features I'm gonna show you will be led as the front end, so you can see what it looks like for the user. I'm not gonna go into too much detail with Builder, but hopefully you'll get a nice insight into how easy our app builder platform is to use. Cool, so to begin with, this is just the About section and somewhere that you can send your users when they first open your app. Just as a nice welcome message, and also obviously like an address and an image. And open the menu. As you can see, there's lots of different features in here. I'm going to try and touch on most of them. And as I said, if I miss anything, you can ask questions. So to begin with, just echoing that message from Jeff Lewis, our CEO, that Tweeby mentioned in the presentation, a quick message here. This is a nice place just to reiterate any points that you're sharing with your employees and keep that message from senior management nice and present. To go to our calendar, this is a nice place again to share activities that are coming up and link especially also to PDFs and slides that you want to share with them. So as you can see, a couple of different activities coming up in the next couple of days. Throughout our working lives, we like to make sure that we are staying active as well as engage with each other for hangouts and meetings. So to click into this all hands session, this is a nice example because it shows you how you can link PDFs and slides. So these can be attached and downloaded natively, so you don't need access to the internet to view those, and those are clicked and accessed simply by clicking this link here. You can also link to external web pages, and those will open up in an iframe within the app if you want them to, which means you have a full end-to-end journey for the user, and they're not hopping to open YouTube on the browser, they're opening a video right within the app. Also, I'll come back to the sessions a little bit later for another section. The second most important thing, I think, above the schedule is to look at different lists. These are the most used features in Guidebook, and you can see them all here. If I open them on the right-hand side, these are all our lists in the back end, so you can create them just like this. In here, these are all added nice and easily individually, or you can upload them in bulk. Just to open them on the front end, as you can see here, we have a section about being safe. So these are just reinforcing points that are either from the government or from the HR team, whoever we find is important. In here, you can see lots of different rules and advice on staying at home, those kinds of things, information about the virus, going that a little bit further about information. You can also share information like best practices. I'm sure there's lots of people out there that have never worked from home or aren't used to it. I'm definitely hearing that from different clients that I speak to, especially universities and on-campus workers tend to not work from home. That's what I've heard. So, they're having to adapt, even order new laptops to work from home. So it's good to share things like this. So, managing your expectations, sticking to a schedule, making sure you're communicating with workers. And on top of these list items, you can add extra context. And in here, you could even add collateral. Just like you saw on the schedule, you could add PDFs, you could add websites for your users to click on nice and easily in these kinds of sections. One more folder. This one was just about COVID-19. One more folder I just wanted to refer to in terms of lists was the resources section. So this is actually a folder that contains a number of lists. So in here, this is set up slightly different. These ones actually trigger a website opening in an iframe, like I mentioned earlier. So this one links to the World Health Organization. So this is just a normal website opened up within my app that I can now browse. So again, a nice way for you to point to different information from outside of your organization that's informing your employees or your users. Of course, it's important to inform your users and have lots of engaging content, but it's also important to create that community and keep your users happy and engaged with their colleagues, with their peers, and hopefully helping them to stay happy whilst at home and remote. So to go through our networking features, and there's quite a few, we have firstly our interact feed. This is one of our best features, in my opinion. And something that's ever changing. As you can see at the top, we've got a new update. So that's actually a notification that's come through. As you can see in here, there's plenty of comments, photos, check-ins, so you can see who's attending, photos of Andrew mentioning that he's got no plants at home. So you can see in here, there's lots of fun content. This is a place for employees to let their hair down a little bit, get away from the formalities that can overcome the work day, and share some things about what they're doing at home. I definitely love these updates. It's a nice way to maybe think of some new things that I could do at home, and also learn a little bit more about the employees that maybe I wouldn't talk to on a day-to-day basis. You can comment, you can post photos, statuses. You can even tag people and also tag sessions. So you'll see lots of different content in there. And as I said, hopefully it's always ever changing, which means that it's a nice reason for your users to come back into the app. You can also have a photo album, which is just your photos. So as you saw in the interact feed, there was a couple of albums in there. In here, you just see just your photos isolated. You can like and comment on these again, and you'll get notifications just like you do from Facebook or Instagram if someone comments or likes on your photo. So again, nice way to create that community feel. Another way to keep your users engaged is to send out notifications. So for this one, I'm going to use the backend. Keep forgetting that it's there. So notifications is very important. So these are one-way messages to send out to your users. They go into an inbox, which is here. Sorry. You saw this screenshot in the presentation. As Tweeby said, it mentions that you have unread and read. So I can see what I haven't read yet with either the blue dot or in the unread section. These messages can be very important. You can send them out to different users. You can send them out to everyone, and they're very easy for you to do. So you can set a title, which you can see if I use this one as an example, Happy Friday. You can also send a message, just like an email or kind of any text message. You can make it a push, so it goes to the lock screen of the user's devices. And as I mentioned, you can target specific users. You can also choose to schedule these. So you don't have to sit there at 9 AM on Monday and click go on the message. You can just schedule a couple out so that they go to your users as and when you want them to. You can also link them within the guide. So if you have, say, a survey that you want completed, or you want to alert to some new content that you've added, you can link that notification to that certain feature. And as they swipe it on the lock screen, it will open that feature. That's a great way to just let your users know of new content and keep them up to date. Another way to capture information is with surveys. So for this one, I am going to also use the backend. Surveys are a great way of capturing information, and that can be not limited to feedback, collecting form information, so asking questions. It can be filled out anonymously, or you can ask for a sign-in. And there's lots of different questions that you can ask. You can also link your surveys, as I have here, right into the menu. So I'm just going to open that survey now. Or you can link them to a certain session or even a certain list item. So if your survey is specific to something that's in your guide, or a certain piece of information, you can link it there and you can let your users know that it's there. As I fill these out, it's very easy and intuitive for me to do so. As you can see, nice and quick, and I can revisit these if I want to. I can add free text in here, and I can even have branching paths. So if I answer yes or no, I'll get a different answer. When I submit, it's submitted, and I'll see all my responses in this activity survey in the back end. So in here, this is where you edit and create your survey and add your questions. And in here, this is where you'll see your answers. So nice and easily displayed for you to see a quick snapshot. And of course, you can also download these and then use them in an Excel sheet, however you want to harness and display them. The surveys, for me, are a great resource for you to collect information. Survey as it's called, and also create forms that employees or users can suggest changes and provide their own feedback to you as well. So this is a nice two-way tool for you to capture and create information. Another way for you to keep employees engaged, and this is where I'm going to go back to the schedule, is with a live poll. So we actually have lunchtime trivia linked in here. And as you can see, I've linked a live poll into this session. So if I open this live poll, you can see, I'm hoping that it's going to open on the right question, that I've enabled question answering on this particular question. So in here, I can see the results that have come in, and I can also vote as a user. This is a great way to do a live poll, and maybe whilst you're on a Google Hangout or a Zoom call, you're then including the mobile phone as part of the interaction, rather than it being there on the desk and being a distraction. You're including it as part of the Hangout. Users are logged into the guide or the app, and they're using it to vote on questions. This should hopefully create some nice community feel, some banter between your employees on the questions. The last thing I want to go through before we go to the Q&A section is the metrics. So an important part of any app and anything you do with Guidebook is analyzing your results. So in our metrics section, you have a huge amount of data that you can look at and analyze. Everything that's in the guide can be clicked on, and anything that's looked at anytime the guide is opened is tracked. So as you can see in here, and I'm not going to go through everything because we have a lot of information in here. And we love talking about these. So if you ever want to talk about your metrics, your guide, please make sure you get in touch. Just as a snapshot, you can see in here guide downloads. So the amount of times that your guide's been downloaded, the amount of sessions that you have, so the amount of times it's been opened, even up to things like the average time that it's open for and how many times per day it's opened. In the insights section, you have information like who of your users has a iPhone versus a Android and where they are in the world as well. So you can see what their location was when they downloaded the guide. You can also hop to the engagement section. This is where you can analyze your networking and community posts. And the last thing is the per user audience management section. This, we haven't got a huge amount of information in this guide for us, but these individual users will have tracking on each of them as long as they've shared their information with you. In there, you can see, for example, if they've posted on Interact, if they've made a connection, if they've commented on something. So it's a nice way for you to see who's engaged and who's not, and really, dive deep into the results that you have. Perfect. So that's concluded the demo. As I said, if you'd like a more personal demo at any point, we do those. So please get in contact, and we'll share that email with you guys. If you'd like to hear more, please do that. I'm going to welcome Stuart and Mackenzie back, and we're going to go through some questions. Okay, so Mackenzie, Stuart, are you there?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so the first question to Mackenzie. Are users able to view the calendar in a monthly or weekly view?
Yep, good question. So the schedule feature, and I know the one that Jack just showed, had a couple days on that view, and it's really dependent on the type of content you have in there and how the user wants to look at it. So the one he has right now is on a day-by-day basis, but if you had content that spanned it over across like a month or a year long, you'd actually be able to scroll down where his cursor is on his phone and be able to see a full calendar view and click on those respectful dates that you might want to pull content from.
Perfect. This one's for Stuart. So we already use Microsoft Teams for day-to-day communications, calendar, etc. What work from home features does Guidebook offer that don't duplicate those efforts and create extra work / add internal resources that people feel burdened by? Also, along those lines, is Guidebook able to integrate with Microsoft Teams?
Great question. I mentioned at the start of the webinar that I manage some of our larger accounts here at Guidebook, and some client names that spring to mind straight away of mine that use Microsoft Teams and Guidebook are companies like Bosch Health, Johnson & Johnson, BAE Systems. So I definitely don't think that these are competing channels. Mobile generally is people's most popular device. I read a statistic the other day that said people use their mobile device 58% more than they use their laptop. And apps have native content which can be accessed without an internet connection, anytime, anywhere. In addition, metrics from our native apps are reliable, detailed, and really easy to access. So everything Jack showed you within the app, all of that is tracked constantly. He obviously mentioned that anyway, but that's a really important differentiator. And then I would say, we are looking past this current situation. So if this channel is made available to people, they find the app a really useful resource where they can find all the important information in one place on their most popular device, then hopefully that people will engage with it. And after this lockdown ends, mobile will actually be even more important once people are back to commuting, to potentially going on work trips or working in away from their desk. So I definitely don't think that this is sort of unnecessary duplicated effort. And just finally, to answer the question around integration, Guidebook has an open API. It's available to all of our clients, and we do not charge for access to that. So it is technically possible to build an integration between any software and Guidebook based on that documentation. What I would recommend is that you speak to your account manager or our support team who can advise you on that.
All right, thanks, Stuart. Okay, we'll go to Mackenzie because that was a nice long answer for you, Stuart. Is the app secure enough to share sensitive information?
Great question. So I personally work with a lot of groups that have internal guides and apps for some of their onboardings and trainings. So that information in itself is very sensitive. So to answer your question, yes, it is. And I'm actually going to give you a couple of examples of ways that you can enable some of those privacy and security settings, as well as focusing a little bit more specifically on the content within the guide itself. So if we're looking at, gating content outside of like the guide, so looking at, downloading the branded app or branded space, we actually have a couple ways that you can protect users from downloading it that aren't necessarily tied to your organization. So the first is enabling what we call a passphrase. So that's coming up with a slogan or a couple lines to gate your content. So if someone were to download your app, they would have to enter a passphrase to access any of your guides within your branded app. And then lastly, we have our most private and secure option, which is called single sign-on, or SSO. And this is where you would actually enter your internal credentials to access the app before you even get to the content within the app itself. So if that is of interest, please connect with your AM or reach out to one of us for more of a personalized demo of what that might look like from getting content outside of the app or the guides itself. Inside the app, on a guide by guide basis, you can actually require a login or passphrase, like I mentioned. I have clients that almost certainly always have a passphrase on all their guides. I strongly recommend that. This really just protects whatever content you have in there, regardless of it being sensitive or private. And then another option, if we're looking at those links inside the app, even if it is passphrase or SSO protected, you can incorporate protected files. So I've got groups that use SharePoint or other HRIS systems as a web link in Guidebook itself. And so if you were to incorporate that into your guide, you would have to have your users access that system with your standard login credentials. So that is another example of how your content is protected and gated.
Thanks, Mackenzie. I've got one here that says, is there a way to push notifications to leaders only or managers, for instance? I'm just going to take this one. So in the notification section earlier that I showed you, there are ways that you can group your notifications. So if you set up a group for your leaders or managers, you can ping them a notification that will only go to that group. Mackenzie, going back to you here. So can we add this to the guides we already have for student events? And I imagine this means that you're asking about these kind of features being added to student guides. Just before, Mackenzie, just before you answer, we do actually have an EDU webinar tomorrow as well. So if you do want to come, if you work for a university and want to come to that one, please check the website or follow up and we can invite you to that one. So Mackenzie, can these features be added to student guides?
Yep, good question. So all of the features you saw today and features that you've used in the past for maybe EDU specific guides can be incorporated across all Guidebook guides. Our feature set is accessible regardless of what vertical you're working under or what type of guide you've built in the past. So feel free to add lists, maybe create folders, which Jack demonstrated, or coming up with different schedule organization, like using schedule tracks for moving to virtual. And feel free to, of course, reach out to your existing account manager if you have built EDU guides. We can work with you on an individual basis to figure out how we can transition your guide to align with the one you saw today and incorporate a little bit more of that virtual engagement feature set.
Perfect. Okay, next question. So I think we can all get involved with this one, just in terms of our clients. So the question is, do you have any real life examples of how clients are using the tool to engage employees, for instance, in staff meetings that would have been face-to-face? Stuart, do you want to go first here? I've definitely got some examples.
Yep. One immediate example that jumps to mind is one of my clients, Tetra Pak, who are obviously a huge packaging company with offices all around the world, and also a remote workforce. For about half of their workforce is remote. So they use Guidebook largely for sales kickoff meetings. Obviously, usually at the start of the year, but they also run a lot of local annual meetings, and they very quickly in Germany and also in Sweden changed their in-person internal events to virtual events. And the great thing here is they'd already put some work into the guides for the in-person event, and they were able to pretty easily transition those to virtual, making a few tweaks, using our existing offering, and they were able to go ahead with those events and still benefit from mobile engagement. So that's the one that jumps out. And then I'll hand it over to Jack and Mackenzie.
Hey guys, yeah, this is Jack again. So I work with UBS, a large investment bank. They use Guidebook to onboard interns and graduate students. They used to print these large paper binded like onboarding packages that would be huge and always left behind in the classrooms, and really long to read. Imagine like an encyclopedia. They use the guide now to onboard staff before they actually set foot in the UBS office, which means that they can send them pre-reading and things like that before they get there, but before they're set up with their UBS email. They love seeing their students and their interns using the app in front of them. So they use it to sign people into sessions. They use it to do live polls and forms whilst they're in person, and they'll ask them to fill those out, whilst they're in the classroom on their mobile phone. My client there said that like this would never have happened before. Usually they like to stick like away from machines that they've understood that students these days, are using apps for their school, for their university. So why shouldn't they use them for their working life as well? Mackenzie, do you have one to talk about?
Yeah, this one's actually a pretty neat one. So Comcast uses the app as an onboarding like interns and new intern hires in small offices to make them feel a little bit more connected. And it's actually turned out to be a pretty huge engagement tool for them. And a fun fact there, so participants, i.e. the interns, started talking to each other before the program, and some of them even carpool together. So it's kind of neat to see that an app can connect people that have never really gotten to know each other or completely new to the intern program or the company at large. And our Comcast point of contact actually mentioned that this is likely not something that would have happened without the app, as email is kind of not a in-person engagement tool. So it's really great to see that this has really pushed and kind of changed their culture and cultivated a little bit more of an interactive intern program in itself. And outside of that example, Comcast at large is really looking to expand to other intern programs to kind of replicate what had happened with that success story, and even extending it to some of their full-time hires and employees across multiple offices.
Perfect. I think a good learning there is that young people and the younger generation definitely are power users, but by using them and learning from them with mobile technology, you can definitely use it to then extend to your wider employee base who are still using their mobile phones, I imagine. So you guys, we're getting to the end of our questions, so if you do have any more, they can be about specific features, about specific things. They can even be about Builder. Please just send them in. We'll be happy to answer them. Stuart, I've got one for you here. So if app users aren't signed in on Guidebook, can these features still be used?
Yep, thanks, Jack. I know that Mackenzie has already covered security options, so I'm not going to go too much into there, but we do offer a range of different options here. Some of them do require login and also validation with external systems, but quite simply, users, unless you choose that security setting, users don't have to log in to access information. So, unless you want them to, they don't have to log in to access content within the app, such as PDFs, lists of information, and that which can be available offline. However, on the interactive side, they do require login. So if users want to check in, message other users, share photos, participate in the interactive social feed, they will have to log in and create an account. And that's I think it's fairly obvious. We want to make sure that people are held accountable for anything that they post or any connections that they create. So yes, they do there, but not to access content unless you choose.
Perfect. Thanks, Stuart. Okay, I think we've come to the end of the questions. So I'm going to go and close this off. So just to let you know, we've shared a public version of our work from home guide that I demoed earlier. So you can take a look at that, look at all the features, take a look at the information, maybe even if it's for some inspiration for content that you want to put in yours, or even if you want to see how things are laid out. There will be a follow-up email to this session. So you will share the slides and we'll also cover off some of the questions. And on the screen now, and yeah, as has been for the last 15 minutes, there's a sales email and the hello at guidebook.com email. If you have an account manager or you are comfortable and used to speaking to the support team, please get in contact with them if you have further questions. We'd love to hear from you. We'll also be doing some more of these, so watch this space. So thanks guys for coming and listening in. Speak to you all soon.